It is Tuesday, November 25th. It's 6:21 a.m. and I'm doing dream tracking. I've been up for a while, but I didn't dream track yesterday, and I had a very vivid dream of seeing my son, so I will dream track that separately. And today I had a very vivid dream. I woke up after a very vivid dream this morning. So I was in a house, and I seemed to be moving through the floors, upstairs and downstairs, quite a lot, doing stuff. And there was a room kind of at the back of the house where I was aware that my son was sleeping. And I went in there, and he was sleeping, and I shut the door. I was trying to do something, and I think I was needing to make some noise, and that's why I was checking in on him, or I had made some noise or something. And, like that part of the dream went on and kind of went away to another scene, I guess. Again, in a house, I can't determine if it's the same house or not, but I want to say in another house, because what I see of this house is the front entrance and the feeling of it moving through it in a different layout. More like there's this upstairs, but like a more grand upstairs or downstairs. Higher ceilings, like the staircase is over there, out of the way, whereas the other house felt like more dense or more condensed, I guess. This feels more like higher ceilings, more open space, lighter grays and creams are the colors I see. It just feels airier, I guess. And the decor feels intentional in this house. I would say if the other house was designed or was laid out because it was lived in, this home or house. Oh, it must be a home. I referred to it as a home. Is like an estate home. It's organized, it's planned, it's designed. And so in that home, there's wealth here. But basically, of the dream itself, being in the dream, there's this feeling like I'm moving through the house, like floating through the house. And even upstairs, but it very much feels like floating. It's like I'm upstairs and I'm downstairs, so it's not like, I feel like I'm walking around doing stuff like in the other part of the dream, or in the other dream. And there's this, and I keep hearing Kings of Tulsa, Kings of Tulsa, Kings of Tulsa. So I've been watching Kings of Tulsa, and there's very much this like grand, rich, old money feel. Anyways, so in the house, there's a woman. She's blonde. And she's younger than me. But to me, she seems quite young. Developmentally, I guess, or emotionally. She just seems like a young woman. But she's not much younger than me, is my awareness. And I'm aware that in my memory that as I'm floating through the house, in my memory of the dream, as I'm floating through the house, this woman is trying to, like, waiting for me. She's in a room. She's like waiting for me as I'm trying to get things done, I guess, or moving around somehow in this house. And so I finally come down and see her, and there's some kind of accusatory dialogue going on from me towards her. And I exit her out of the house. Like, I lead to the door, she comes. She exits first, I come out behind her. And, like, we're still talking. But, like, she's ready to leave. But as she's leaving, there's her car waiting for her. But then there's another car that pulls up and parks in front of her at the end of the drive. And it's like a pretty long front yard, so it's a long walkway. There's a little bit of a downward angle to it, like a little bit of a hill from the house to the street. It's not enough to have stairs, but it just kind of goes down somehow. And so I go. I'm aware that I'm standing at the top, but again, I'm floating. Like, now I'm angled, and so I had been looking at her. It's almost like a screen in a movie, a scene in a movie. And what I was accusatory of with her was about Max. There was something about it, but it felt far away. I don't know. Anyways, I basically am now observing. So I was being in the scene, and now I'm observing the scene. And now if I was watching the scene, she would have been her back to me from the house. I'm now facing on the sidewalk, basically, but up in the air at the scene, like of a movie shot. And it is sorry, so I'm getting some of the stuff back from when I was in the house with her. There is some dialogue and conversation about Max. And as the dialogue and conversation happens, it's almost like I go to other scenes in my dreams. almost like I'm in the conversation that we're having, in the scenes of the conversations that we're having. The things that this young woman and I are talking about in the house. And some of it takes me back to the house of the previous dream. But I'm not certain. Because at some point, I'm interacting with Max. But I don't remember that interaction. I just remember that I was interacting with him. So I wonder if I went to like a memory of the past or something. While we were at Pine Grove. Anyways, I don't recall that very well, but that's all kind of flooding in as happenings while I was in the house. Anyways, I'm back out. I'm viewing the scene from the street and the sidewalk. Kind of elevated from the scene itself, observing. And there is a man that pulls out of that car that pulled up in front of her when I was viewing the scene from the house. And there is this man that pulls out of the car, and now I recognize him as looking like Goody from Kings of Tulsa. Like, he's got that energy, that vibe. I don't know that I saw Goody in my dreams. I want to say yes. But before he looked like Goody in the dream, he looked like somebody else. And I can't recall who it is. Probably not anybody I know, but gave me the Goody energy. So I guess my brain went, yeah, put Goody in there. And he says to the young lady, "You've fucked up." Is that what he said to her? You fucked up. You now report to my organization. And that's where I remembered what we were talking about in the house a bit, because it was like he was there in representation of Max. It's almost like I saw Max at first, then it was somebody I didn't know, then it was Goody. And you now belong and work with my organization. And it was like she was gonna be groomed to take his place. The Goody guy. The Max Stranger Goody guy. I think this is my brain's way of either identifying people's energies, like as similar to somebody, or their intention as similar to somebody, or how I understand their intention, perhaps. When people change, but it should be the same person, or was a certain person, and they transmute to somebody else. I think it's about the energy more than the person. And it may be the person, but there's also a stand-in, like there's more to it. So I understand this in two ways in my dreams. I understand this as understudying, so it's too much or too intense, or I just don't fucking feel like seeing that person. Or my trauma is activated to see that person, so I'm not safe, so I substitute like energies or like roles. So oh, and I have so much pain. I woke up with numbness in both my hands. Like, I can't believe my hands weren't ice cold. They were so numb. They were still warm though, which is interesting to me. So it's not like a typical loss of sensation numbness, but it was that intense. And I went for a massage yesterday, and so I had a lot of like I had a severe knot. It was like my shoulder blade was glued on the right side to my rib cage. She had to like hold my arm up with her knee a certain way to get under that shoulder blade. And the pain and the numbness and the radiating down the forearm and the work she did in the left forearm was excruciating. But it had to be done because it was just so knotted on both shoulders. Anyways, as I was experiencing or remembering this dream and speaking about that last part specifically, I was receiving a lot of pain in my sciatic on my my right leg. And that nerve point, I need to read my anatomy book for this. That nerve point that is in the hip, in the pelvic tissues that are right under the glute, right between the glute and the hip. And I have my lacrosse balls, my cork one under my hip, doing some pelvic physio and some tissue work in the hip. And I have a lacrosse ball properly made of rubber in my lumbar region, right where the hip connects to the pelvic bowl, right above the sacrum, I believe. And that ball is radiating into the front of the groin, into the front of the right leg. And that was specifically where the cork ball is. Was an excruciating pain, like a lot of energy moving through. I want to say fear energy, as I remembered the scene of the young woman being told she belongs to this organization, which I can only say is nefarious given the associations here with the Kings of Tulsa and Goody. And as I recall that, I can feel my lungs adjusting, I can feel my upper neck, on the right, side, right where the skull meets the first C1, I believe that is. First cervical bone in the neck. At the base of the skull. The tissues right at the base of the skull. And right behind the ear. At the skull. The base of the neck. The top of the neck. Right into that jawline, those tissues are just screaming now. And I can really feel a stinging in the rubber ball area of my lumbar region. My left hand is going numb. I've been holding the phone to record there, but my left hand is going numb in this like shaky, really fast numbing that radiates up into my elbow. So I have a lot of energy moving and a lot of energy stuck and wanting to move through. As I recall this dream, which is really interesting, but no real sense of an emotion behind these energies other than fear. Which may be why I woke up at that point, where I had the numbness in both hands. Whoa, and I just feel this opening of energy. Not necessarily in my third eye area of my forehead, but right at the bridge of the nose, or it goes up to the brow bone. Feel the need to rotate my neck, and pulling and rotating my neck really, I can feel it pulling at the rubber ball region and in the hip. And that pain in behind in the tissues at the base of the neck on the right side, behind the ears and the jawline. Interesting. Okay, so I'm back to focusing on the scene and noticing that, oh wow, I am very scared of this scene. As I start to speak of it again, I feel my whole chest constrict. And like at a physiological level, I'm terrified by this scene. Wow. Shit. I'm aware of who this girl is. Apparently she's my daughter. So I'm just going to breathe that in because clearly I don't have a daughter in 2025, let alone a young woman daughter that's not very much younger than me. Yet I am so connected to her and I am terrified. My brain is wanting to make sense of this and it's bringing in muddied associations. So I'm going to just let everything that I'm feeling and noticing hang in the air. And I'm not going to try to make sense of it because it's not going to make sense. It's a movie in my dreams. And sometimes these movies come true. Sometimes these movies already happen and I'm finally remembering them. Sometimes these movies are premonitions of what might be on the current path and trajectory. Or sometimes they are a calling to what I could be headed to next. Not unlike my dream of my son when I first saw my son, or consciously in my dream. I now am aware that I've seen my son. I speak to my son all the time in my dreams. And I have been long, if I'm honest, since I was a child. It's wild. Anyways, I wish I remembered those. I think I'm ready to remember those. But anyways, back to the scene. And let's see if my body, now that I am witnessing the terror that I feel about the scene, because it feels like this daughter figure is experiencing this in my dream. When she leaves my home or this house, when I say my home, it feels right in my chest. When I say this house, I get something in the pit of my stomach. That's interesting. Anyways, this is somatic resonance in practice, people. So as I recall my dreams, it's resonating with my body in a certain way that I can't consciously comprehend, but it's driving what I'm able to consciously remember or how it makes me feel. And now, because I'm sitting in the observer role and I'm actively in a practice of documenting my dreams and dream tracking, and what is the difference between documenting my dreams and dream tracking? Documenting my dreams is saying what I saw and what I felt. And dream tracking is, how is it making me feel? How am I experiencing this dream? Because as I'm sleeping, my consciousness, my conscious awareness is at rest. But it doesn't mean that the rest of my body isn't processing. This is why we move in dreams. This is why we talk in dreams. This is why we cry and wake up from our dreams. Because our unconscious and our subconscious processes are continuing while our conscious mind rests, so that we can make sense of the stuff that doesn't make any sense to our conscious minds. Because our logic needs rest, because not everything makes sense yet. So you can be having a conversation or planning something and be like, this is exhausting, get me out of here. It's like, you know stuff, and there's elements that need to be considered that are not obvious to your conscious mind, but that are very obvious to the rest of you and the rest of your levels of awareness. But unless you give permission for those levels of awareness to shine through or to do their job while the conscious mind isn't getting in the way, then we're not going to be able to get to the other side. We're going to keep repeating that until we can make sense of it somehow, some way, to our conscious mind, to our processes in our body, this, that we know. We're going to try to fit them in a box. Where do I fit this hot mess? Let's put it here. So every time she reacts this way, or she sees this thing, that's like this thing. Yeah, plug it in there. That's how I see it. Ooh, and as I say that, the lumbar region ball is just on fire. And it just feels like this download of energy. Whoa, I feel dizzy. It feels like a high. But the pain is intense in my right leg, right down, right on the inner, it's in the nerve tissues, right from the hip, that cork ball, that from the front, from the lumbar ball, and from the back, from the cork ball, right meeting in the middle, over my bones, top and bottom. There's this like hot, fiery stinging. Ooh, this energy is fast moving, intense. It feels joyful, but it's a lot. Ooh. And it hurts so much. It hurts the nervous tissues and the muscle tissues. I can really feel them contracting. Ooh. So that's dream tracking. It's like, how am I experiencing the dream in my body? So there's documenting and then there's tracking. And you can track without documenting, right? You can do that for your own self. You can say it out loud. Like I am. You could visualize one of your kids' race car toys moving and spinning. See what the energy moves like. Bring it outside of yourself into something that is more tolerable to try to understand than trying to understand logically right from get-go how it's moving in your body. Ooh, I started moving my right leg just to get some of that energy. Movement is very important when you have such intense energy. Either severe stillness or some movement. And it can be slow and like flossing your tendons, or it can be fast, like pretending to run in the air, or move a bicycle, ride a bicycle in the air. And sitting on a lazy boy, if you will, type chair that leans back. And so I'm right now at about a 60-degree angle. And I had the balls placed where they were, and then I lean into my chair. You can place the balls after you're sitting, but that's how I position myself. So the natural weight would be enough pressure, but not too much, not forceful. I feel supported, but not but not like all my weight is on these balls and pressure points and release points. And I feel the need to move my leg kind of in circles as it's not fully extended, but with the slight knee bend. I also have I'm going foggy quite a bit as I'm experiencing this pain. So as they create more pressure and more movement, my body wants to go into a little bit of freeze. So I'm just going to notice that and give that permission to be here. And I feel a call to move my neck a little from side to side. And I just feel some adjusting in my knees, going back into place as I give the movement on the right side. Knee joints. As I open up my pelvic hip area as I rotate my foot out, and I extend my leg a little more and straighten it. I get some snapping and popping again, not just in the knee but in the hip, and those tissues are finally relaxing a little from that fear stance, and they are releasing. So this is why sometimes we wake up so stiff. And this is why my practice for me of dream tracking and movement is so important as part of the different protocols. The inner dance as well as the physical dance with somatic resonance protocols are so important because I find how my body has wired in and remembered certain associations. I get to unwind that intensity that's at an unconscious level that I'm bringing to conscious awareness through what my dreams are showing me, just what's showing up. I have no agenda, other than, okay, this is what I was remembering about my dreams. It seems really loud, and it keeps repeating like a broken record, like the Kings of Tulsa thing. Do it, do it, do it. And it's my body telling me, I'm trying to talk to you. And it's things that don't make sense because I've actively committed to rewiring my body and my pain levels in my brain and my body and in my tissues. I've basically committed to giving my body permission to talk back now. And so now I have to listen. And logically, because of my work, I need to make sense of it and document it so that I don't lose sight of all of this communication and this language that I'm picking up from my body. This is all internal wisdom. The unconscious processes are what read our DNA, what help us grow, what help us make sense of the world. Some of these things are what our ancestors did, what our ancestors believed. And this is our body's way of translating it to us in things that are real world to us, and how we need to handle things, or how we should handle things, or how we have to from a fight-flight response. So, fascinating. Anyways, back to dream tracking and documenting this memory of this dream. That intense energy, and I can hold it. It's making my hamstrings and my quads just quiver, and every so often I get a jump and a shake. But what I'm doing here is I'm opening up the window of tolerance of the pain levels, because I wired them so intensely. And so I can handle really loud levels of pain. I can live with them, but I don't need to hear them at that volume all the time. And so I'm wiring them down so that they're not so damn loud anymore, because I've given it permission to be that loud. So it's like a joke. It's just not that funny anymore. It just doesn't hurt anymore. I built up my tolerance to it. Okay. So I just want to bring you into how I've repositioned my knee and my leg to get into that hip a little deeper now that I can tolerate that fear energy moving through me a little bit more, and that pain energy that's associated with the fear. So, and also my body doesn't need to go into freeze right now. I can hold this, I can feel this. I'm resilient, I'm strong enough, I've got this. I've done this a million times over my lifetime without knowing. So now I go back to this dream. This man says to this young woman, you fucked up. You are now working for my organization. And basically, she's gonna replace this guy. She's training her, to take over his job in this nefarious organization. So these two cars are there, one picking her up, one this. And it has something to do with Max, but I have no idea what. So at that point, I wake up, I guess, because I'm terrified. Now, the good news is I only had one child with that man, so I don't know what this means, if I'm honest. But there you go. It doesn't have to make sense. The scene, that part of the scene where the young woman is told she's going to work for that organization, and the understanding for me as I'm observing this scene in the dream is that I am watching a similar offer of mentorship that I saw in I'm also watching the show The Boys, and the CEO lady, I can't remember her name, the weirdo lady that just got killed in the got an offer of mentorship to the whatever floor. That's what it looked like to me. Like, that's how my brain is processing, making sense of that. And then I have this awareness right now, just from my conscious self right now, of how my oracles work, like why things make sense. And this is like my concept of the original AI. It's like I take all of the inputs from the environment. So I'm watching Kings of Tulsa and The Boys and Stranger Things and all kinds of other shows that I'm catching up on. And Hell's Kitchen. And I making sense of how the world works through my observation of others in the world. So the way Ramsey leads, his philosophy on leadership, that's what I'm watching, and that's what I'm picking up, or I'm drawing from that expertise when I'm thinking of my own leadership and how I command a room, or how I step into a room and don't command a room, and how I choose that energy, that soft leadership differently. In everyday life, that powerful, sturdy support presence, but not, I tell you what to do, or you do it my way or the highway, but that really, here it is. This is just what's true for me. And then how I allow people to learn and fail for themselves, and the kinds of environments and circumstances that I create in my workshopping for that. So that's one input. And so to me, an oracle is just like somebody who can process data really fast and see it in outside of the dimension of their material world. So bringing it, if you think of dimensions as paper being two-dimensional, it has one side and two sides. And then as three-dimensional being, something that has a length, a width, and a height. And then four-dimensional, something that has parallels, like a rectangle or a square, but it's got more than one dimension of parallel. And so then what's fifth dimension? What's five-dimensional thinking? It's when it doesn't have to be this or that, or this is like this and this is like that. When it is more complex. When you bring in this element. So let's talk about baking cookies, because I learned this from a baker, a Mennonite baker this week. That to make cookies chewier, the science behind that is to prepare the batter and put it in the fridge so that the flour has time to absorb. There's a chemical reaction there, because it's not just length, width, height. Now there's moisture, now there's temperature, now there's, was it solid, was it liquid? And is it solid now? Like now all of these ingredients are mixing in. And so basically, the layman's three-dimensional, what's the practical application of that is the cookies are chewier. But when it is not set in the fridge or given time to rise in the fridge, or let the moisture settle into the dry ingredient in the fridge, or the butter or the fat interact with all of the other ingredients, when you don't allow for that, then what ends up happening is you end up with a drier cookie instead of a moisture cookie. And so that's just the chemical reaction. That's five-dimensional thinking. That's science, right? The physics, the science of our physiology is that too. That when we bring our awareness to five-dimensional thinking, we're no longer thinking just about, I gotta work, so I gotta eat. We're also now thinking about, well, when I eat this, my body and my energy feels like this, and my work is impacted in this way. Now, what I'm doing with dream tracking and dream documenting, I'm going even deeper. I'm actually bringing awareness to my unconscious skills, which are our psychic senses, in different ways. But these things are already there. I'm just now paying attention to them. And that's the difference. So now I'm retraining my body not to react in fear when I bring awareness to these, because I can't be using my dreams for my benefit in daytime hours and then have my body go into a whole fight-flight response. And also, I don't need to be experiencing a fight-flight response at a physiological level with my dreams, because I'm not really there. And this is where I'm rewiring my complex PTSD, is while I've always experienced the world this intensely, in reality, whether I'm showing it in my conscious world or not. And so this is how we become more attuned to the environment around us. Wonderful. So that's all of the dream that I recall from this morning. This is Somatic Resonance in practice, the dream tracking protocols, as well as some insights into how our oracle and psychic skills come about just from a physiological felt sense. Okay.